Okay, are the new bits on stage ready to go?
They're up on stage in the briefcase.
There's just one more thing I want to touch base on before I go on.
Brad, the bits have been stolen.
What customers are here?
We got EasyJet, Trek, Aston Martin.
How long till I go out?
5 minutes?
Wait here. I'll be right back.
Everyone out. Secure the perimeter while I download the data.
So, we meet again. Keep it. You'll never crack it. I just need these back.
Anderson!
Brad, you're on in 25 seconds. Where are you?
Don't worry. I'll be there.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Microsoft Corporate Vice President Brad Anderson.
Good morning, TechEd! Boy, we are excited to be here. You know, I got to tell you, that was one of the funnest things I think I've ever done. I got to check that off the bucket list. But we're excited to be here. We're grateful that you would spend this time with us. You know, one quick thing, you know, many of you may ask, hey, where can I get that application? That's the Tearaway Tux. It's exclusively available in the Windows Phone Marketplace. Oh, that's right. I got here just in time. When you think about it for a minute, ladies and gentlemen, it really comes down to this right now. What we spend our time doing, everyone in this room, everyone listening to this across the world, we spend our time making others great. It's what we do. And I just absolutely love the aspect of what we do as our jobs. We spend our time making sure that users can get the data they need, the applications they need, that experience that enables them to do great things. And that really is what this keynote's about today. This keynote is about taking advantage and seizing that opportunity that all of these significant trends across the industry present for us. What you're going to see today is you're going to see significant innovations. You're going to see announcements of releases and updates to every one of our major products that run in your data centers. And we're going to walk you through what that looks like. So let's get going. So let me give you a roadmap of what the morning is going to look like. So what we're going to do is we're going to start talking about devices. And we're going to cover the innovation and the work that we're doing in Windows 8 and with our partners. And then we're going to start to talk about the services that we're building to light up those devices. And we're going to talk about what we do to enable your users across all of their devices so you can embrace the trends around the BYO scenarios. These users and these devices, they all want great apps. So we're going to talk about the innovations in Azure and in Visual Studio that enable you to build great and rich applications. Now, all these applications, they generate incredible amounts of data. And there's insights in that data if we can just unlock it. So we're going to talk about the work in SQL and the work that we're doing to enable you to unlock all of the data across, all the insights in the data across all of your enterprise capabilities and your partners in the cloud. And finally, we're going to talk about the cloud platform. You need a cloud platform across your data centers, your service providers, and across the public cloud that really allows you to host all of these services. So that's the roadmap for the next 2 hours. And I'll tell you, we've brought the best and the brightest with us today to do this. Literally, we have brought the engineering leaders from across Windows and Windows Server, System Center, Azure, SQL, DevDiv, the leaders that literally define the strategy, set the pace, define the future of our investments. And let's get started. What we're going to do is we're going to start talking about Windows, and we're going to invite Ian McDonald from the Windows team to the stage to give us an overview. Ian, how you doing?
Hey, bud. How are you?
Good.
You gonna give me that?
You got it. Cheers.
Hi there. I'm Ian McDonald. I'm in the Windows Core group at Microsoft. You can see my email there if you really want to give me feedback later on. Our group makes the kernel, virtualization, file systems, storage, security, and identity bits for Windows, but not just Windows. We make it for all the things that basically the Microsoft's releasing these days, from phone to the recently announced Xbox One, to embedded, to Windows Server, which we've been doing for a very long time, and all the way up to Windows Azure, which is all running on Windows Server 2012 these days. We really feel that our operating system is something that's very malleable. The fact that we're able to go and do all that stuff is actually something pretty cool. But, you know, Windows is our core business, and Windows is a thing that allows us to be able to go and move between going from this super locked down environment, you know, like banks, company, three-letter agencies whose names I can't mention, various other people, all the way to what's the choice for the hardcore gamer at home. He's going to be playing, he or she is going to be playing his game on Windows. And, you know, it's really everything in between as well. You can go and take that device into work. You can go and put it in your environment that's a little bit more secure if you need to. You can take it out. And you can really go and get into the BYOD thing. Now, Brad's going to talk a little later about some of the BYOD stuff. But in the end, the important thing is Windows is the thing that powers a device that allows you to get to your stuff. And your stuff can be on many different things, whether it's a phone or whether it's Windows or whether it's sitting up in the cloud. And it allows you to be, Windows is the best place to be able to go and get into all of those things. Now, we've had Windows 8 out for 8 months so far. We've been getting lots of feedback. We've sold over 100 million copies. There was a few more than that, but we'll announce some numbers later this month. We've got over 70,000 apps in the store, and we know we've got hundreds of millions of downloads of those apps. And are we happy with it? Yeah, we're happy with it. There's a lot of things going on. Enough of my yakking about it. Why don't we look at what some customers are doing, and they'll tell us themselves.
We believe that tablets are really going to become the predominant device for students and faculty.
Windows 8 is perfect when it comes to hardware choice because it gives us options as to what platform we use.
Now with the KISS application running on Windows 8, it looks so chic and modern. I walk proudly in the cabin, interacting with customers, getting information, sharing information.
We can't afford having non-secure devices impacting our operations. That's why for us it was essential to see Microsoft coming with Windows 8
Windows 8 really provides us the ability to manage thousands of devices on our campus network. Android and iPad devices just don't come with the same management and security infrastructure that Windows 8 comes with.
We use Windows 8 tablets to provide a more personalized experience for our guests. When our guests are connected to those things that matter to them, they're happier and they're more productive.
With all the challenges of enterprise IT, security, deployment, the list goes on, Windows 8 absolutely makes sense when you're deploying it to mobile workers.
Our work so far with Windows 8 is just the beginning. There are many more opportunities within our industry to provide an enhanced experience to our guests.
What I want is a phone call on Monday morning that says our application with the Windows 8 has helped the teams win the race on Sunday.
Windows 8 gave us the platform to reimagine everything we've done.
So the thing we loved about that, we were a bunch of us in the engineering team watched some of these videos the other week. The thing we loved about it is hearing what Hoyt from Sheridan was saying, which is Windows 8 is allowing him to have a business that gets improved over time. And we're going to improve our business over time. If you're living under a rock in the last year, you probably would have heard, especially in the tech industry, you probably would have heard people not liking things that were taken out of Windows, or there's some people now that we've announced Windows 8.1 not liking we've put things back into Windows. We are releasing Windows 8.1 this year. It's a free upgrade from Windows 8. And the preview bits will be available on June 26th. Now, one of the big things for us is the fact that it is compatible. And it's really compatible. Anything that, we said when we released Windows 8 that anything that ran on Windows 7 would run on Windows 8. And that's true. And that compatibility continues today. So anything that runs on Windows 8 obviously runs on Windows 8.1. And, you can do a lot more to personalize the experience in Windows 8.1. You can see up there's different tile sizes than we've had in the past. There's the idea that the start screen might have your personalized background. It's the background that would be on the desktop for you. A lot of those sort of things. Now, today, I'm not going to go and do a full deep UI demo, time constraints, and we've also got the build conference coming up that all that stuff will be streamed out. I'm going to show you some things that I think get lost sometimes when we talk to the sort of consumer-focused press, and I'm going to show you some things that we've done that are more focused on the business world. And, there's a lot more than I'm going to go and show. You probably also don't want the UI demos done by the kernel guy. So here we go. I'm going to show you some stuff. First of all, I got a machine here for a user named Sarah, and Sarah is in one of the call center groups at Microsoft. Hopefully, we've switched on to machine one. I did it. Look at that. And, one of the things that we've heard feedback from in Windows 8 is that it's a little easy to mess up your start screen tiles. I have 5-year-old daughters. They do it to me all the time. So one of the things that we've gone and done is we've put in an ability for you to just, when you hold down a tile, it will bring up a customization option. And lovely. So customize there, and that's how you get to go and move things around rather than setting things by default. But Sarah's manager doesn't want me to go and actually give her any ability to be able to go and move things around. So moving across to the next machine, number 3, I've got a setup here that I've set a configuration for her of specific sets of apps and specific sets of tiles that are there. So, we've got a basic set of stuff, we've got some work apps, we've got Office sitting there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and export that, and I've gone and done this using PowerShell. So I'll go and export the layout, I'll export it to XML, I'll stick on a server. So here we go. Bang, that's done. Now I'm going to move back over to my server, and I'm going to have a look at the policies that I've got in place on there, and I'm going to go and select this start screen layout policy, and I'm going to go and enable it, and I'm going to paste the path to that layout file I just had, And I'm going to enable it. So what I've gone and done is I've said, Sarah, this user that I don't want to be giving all that much control to, has a specific layout. I've exported the layout from this machine. I've set the policy up. And now I'll go back to Sarah's machine. And I'll go into the command prompt, group policy update /force. I'll go and do that. Whenever I go and do something like this and I've got to type, everybody sees that, like, I'm a kind of crappy typer. And so that's why I always go and sort of preload it up. And now I'm just going to log off. And we're going to log back into Sarah, which we go dog stick thing. Look at that. And I messed up the picture password. Actually, a bunch of the Microsoft. And there I go. I'm setting into the place that does that. Now, one of the other things that we have actually done with Windows 8.1, which if you've been reading Paul Thurrott's column, you'd know about, is we have a thing called assigned access, which we'll be providing in Windows 8.1, which will give you the ability to lock down Windows even more. For example, if you're a school and you've got an application that is running an exam, you don't want them to be able to go to a browser. Odd that, isn't it? Or if you want to be able to provide a digital sign, or you want to be able to go and do any of those sort of things where there's a single app going on, and it provides just access to a single Windows Store app. And we really think that that's actually something that a lot of people are going to do. Windows 8.1, the embedded edition, will provide some Windows 8.1 Industry Edition, which is from the embedded line, will provide a bunch more customization in that space. So, one of the things for us is we think that this is a commitment. There's a commitment to the business. There's a commitment to the stuff that we've been doing, and we've been doing it for a long while. Personally, I've been on Windows 15 years. I think that we've seen different things that we've gone and released and different levels of success, but we feel that the path we're on is continually getting better. And my group in the core is really focused on, every release we're going to get better performance, we're going to get a smaller system, we're going to continue to be able to go broader and broader. But we also believe that building the best device for business and building the best tablet and building the best laptop is core for what we're doing. And we're working a lot with people to be able to go and bring out Windows Store apps for business, a line of business apps, and really go and allow them to be able to go and easily and simply build in the level of security that you need these days. Now, as I said before, Brad's going to do a whole bunch of stuff on BYOD in a little while, and I'll leave some of that up to him. But I want to talk about some of the stuff that we're doing for mobility. Now, really, I think that when you talk about mobility, a lot of the problems that you end up having, a lot of the things that you've got to go and deal with, really go through to everywhere you go. It's kind of pain to go and hook up to different systems. I didn't swear. I know it's an interesting change for me. So one of the big problems that comes along for us is whenever I go somewhere else and I want to just go and display, I don't know about you guys, but in our place we've got like 37 different cables you've got to go and plug in, and you've got to go and work out which one is the right one, and then eventually you display 10 minutes into the meeting time that you've got allocated. So what we've gone and done is we've built in support for Miracast in Windows 8.1. And Miracast is really a great sort of PowerPoint display technology. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pair this machine up right here. And let's flick to showing the pairing. Okay, so it's connecting right now. So Miracast is one of these technologies that's great. It's not really your thing that you're going to go and want to have, sitting in your desk and always be the way that you're connecting to your screen in your office. But it's great for that sort of conference room or presentation area one, because there is a bit of a lag that comes in. But I've just gone and done that, and I've flicked onto this machine, and there's a little lag here, so slide over, slide back, and now I'm going to open PowerPoint. And hey, look at that, pictures of my kids. I had to do that. I was going to sort of rickroll you, but I didn't have any sound, so it didn't really work. Okay, so that's that one. Okay, second one that I want to show you. That just like, I think this is the most ridiculous thing that in 2013 I'm going to do a demo of printing. Okay, I just will admit that. But what we've gone and done here is we've got an old printer. It's Wi-Fi enabled, but it's not really enabled for much else. And what I'm going to go and do is I'm going to connect to this with, I've got a passive NFC tag that we've created on top of this. So I'm going to pair this machine up to it. Right, look at this, add a device. It's going to add the device. It's going to take a little time. We're on pre-release builds. It takes a little time to do that at the moment, but it's going to add a device as I'm standing here talking, going blah, blah, blah at you. It's always the interesting part of a demo is when you've got the devices taking a little bit of time to sync up. Did I get this? Okay, come on. You're going to do it for me. Okay, so I got the device and I'm going to go into Mail. And what I've got here is I've got the Mail app in Windows 8. And one of the things that you'll see that we've actually gone and done in Windows 8.1 is we've got the ability for apps to go and open up side by side. So I had my airplane attachment that's sitting on my airplane boarding pass that's sitting in my Mail account, and I've gone and selected that, and I'm going straight in, and I'm going to go and select and print it. And it'll print. Okay, so we're going to, it's going to print. It always like incredibly, like the number of wireless networks we saw in here yesterday, over time it was taking more and more time to be able to go and print with the more machines we brought in. So it's going to print, but my print server's sitting okay. It is going to print. Well, we'll move on to the next thing and then we'll come back to that. It is going to print, I'll tell you this. Okay, so what I've got here is I've got a Surface Pro machine sitting here, and it's sitting and it's not connected to the net, so you can see that by it's not displayed. So I'm going to flick over to this machine, and I have set up a tether. I've turned on mobile broadband on this machine. If I flick back to the first machine, in a moment you'll actually see that it's coming back to tether 2. It's coming back. There's tether 2. It's coming up. Connected. Okay, so and you'll see in a second that it's connected. And the idea is that we know that users have this problem of, one, in a lot of places Wi-Fi is not as cheap as America. Sorry to tell you that. You get a really great deal in America for cheap Wi-Fi. And we know that a lot of people want to be able to go and use mobile broadband to be able to go and connect. So we've simplified the way that you can go and connect and tether up off other systems. And generally we go and say that up to 10 systems you'll be kind of okay, get okay perf, but not, when you get to about 8 or 9, you're going to sort of find that it goes a little slow. But one of the other things that we've gone and done is we've built in with Windows 8.1 the ability for app writers to go and build in a VPN directly into the system. So, and build it in directly to their app. So rather than having a system-wide VPN, an app writer can go and do that. So I've got this app here. It's called Rounds. It's one of our demo apps. And it goes and says that I've got to go and have a VPN when I go and connect in. Now, one of the cool things that we've gone and done with that is we've also wired it up for a virtual smart card. And so you can, if you want to go and be able to put in multi-factor auth and build it into the app or build it into your infrastructure, you're really able to go and build that up and be able to go and put all that sort of stuff in. So I'm going to flick back to slides. And my printing's, I'm going to have to find out. The printing does work. Really, that's like 2013, yeah. And of all things, I got all this other stuff that was going to break down on me. In 2013, the printing demo takes longer. I'm going to get those printing guys. Okay. One of the things I really wanted to talk about is what came up for security. and what's coming up for security. I don't think there's a day going by at the moment where we're sort of seeing security is an issue and and people are getting hacked and all that sort of stuff. And way back in after we released XP, we stopped our development of Server 2003 and created this thing called the Security Development Lifecycle. And I remember on that, when we created that, you know, we set in place a bunch of aims that we wanted to be able to go and get to, Server 2003, XP, SP3, blah, blah, blah. But we also had these long-range aims that we wanted to get to. And we really got to a place that you know, the people who were running that project said, you know, it's going to take us 10 years to get there. And we knew that at the time. Windows 8 is the release that I believe that we've delivered on those original aims that we put in place. And you know what? The game's changed for us now. The game has hugely changed. And for us, I think that, you know, like, I will never stand up here and promise that we've created an unbreakable system. No one should promise that, because there are a lot of people out there, there's a lot of very professional people and organized people who are creating attacks on the system these days. So I really don't think that we should ever promise that. But what we can promise is that we've moved from being, you know, having a defensive nature of where we are versus the attacks, and we're moving into an offensive nature. And you'll see a lot more what we're going and doing with Windows 8.1 over the next couple of months. But really, we go and say security is something that you should add into your view of the world in the next over the next year, and there's some very important things. Okay, my final thing I want to do is I want to go and show you a couple of machines that are coming out, or a couple of machines you may have heard of. Look at this thing. This is huge. This is called a Panasonic Magic Board. And this is a 20-inch LCD display. It does 3840 by 2560, and it does an aspect ratio of 1510. I have my my funny joke is that I get to be able to go, Windows, Windows, Windows. I'll be looking for a new job next week, so. The second one that we've got here is, I was actually warned about doing that, and there's a couple of PR people out the back who are having kittens right now. We have this machine. It's called a Toshiba Kira book. Got some actually awesome reviews on The Verge and a couple other places in the last week. 25 by 2560 by 1440, 13-inch display. This is an awesome display, and it's also got this smudge-proof things, which actually is kind of cool, and it works pretty well. And it's funny because you sort of like, you expect it to smudge up, and it's actually really good. This is kind of one of the best Ultrabooks that we've seen so far, and it's really solid too. It's not a thumpy solid sort of thing. This guy here is the Lenovo Helix. And I think one of the big problems with systems that end up being tablets is the hinges are kind of funny. So this hinge here, they call it rip and flip, but you can go and do this. You know, and this is a sort of solid hinge thing, so it actually turns into a laptop pretty well. It's got a TPM, it's got a Core i5 in it. This is actually a machine that I can see a lot of people doing sort of serious business stuff could actually really go and do. And it's got this other weird mode where you can flip it around like that, but we won't get into that. And then the final one, which you probably would have heard that that was announced this morning by Acer, is the world's first 8.1 tablet. Industry-focused tablet. It's called the Icona W3. So this has full PC capabilities. It comes with Office installed, this home and student version of Office, and it's got everything. It'll run all your old apps and all that sort of stuff. It's running an Atom, so there's a lot of stuff in terms of long battery life. And this keyboard, even though it kind of looks a bit funky, is actually a decent full-size keyboard and actually works for us. So there's a couple of machines that we've got coming, our OEMs have coming up over the next couple of months. There's a couple of interesting, different things in there, and hopefully you'll go out and buy a couple, eh? Hopefully I'll see you guys at the reception tonight or something like that. Thanks very much. Where's Brad?
Great job, man.
Thanks, bud.
All right, Ian McDonald, one of my absolute favorite people at Microsoft, and hope he's still at Microsoft after that demo. So listen, Windows 8.1, these tablets, as we built these tablets, we built them with all of you with IT in mind. So the manageability, the security, the protection, all the things that you've known and you've come accustomed to in Windows is included inside of these tablets. So we make statements that, hey, the best tablets for the enterprise, the best tablets for industry. This is why we say that. Let me give you one quick anecdote, personal anecdote about Windows 8. And this is one of those kind of those moments where, as a father, you kind of become a hero to your children. You know, we've got a couple of all-in-ones at home. We have a number of Surface devices, of RT devices. And the first time I showed my children, they could log in on any one of the devices, and through, you know, the integration that we've done with Microsoft Account, and with SkyDrive, with Office 365, their settings followed them across the devices. Their data was available anywhere. Never again am I going to get one of those phone calls. So they're at school, they're at a friend's house, and I've got to email them a document or, you know, help them get the latest version of Office, because it all follows them. Talk about a proud moment where their geeky father became a hero. You know, it's just one of those moments I would encourage you to do the same. So let's talk for a minute about the next transition and evolution of our story here. We've talked about devices and the great devices that we're building. Now let's transition and start to talk about some of the services that enable these devices to be used in the enterprise. And so if you step back for a minute and just kind of think about what's happening in all of your worlds are getting incredibly more complex, whether that be in the data center or whether that be with what your users are using. But let me give you just a couple of data points that I think kind of bring it all home. Since we met a year ago at TechEd, there have been 1.2 billion smart devices sold around the world. 50% of IT organizations have been mandated to support consumer devices for their CXOs. 50% of all of our employees, our workers, in their 20s, believe that BYO is a right, not a privilege, a right. And to me, the one that hit home the most is in the research that we've been doing. We're seeing that over 80% of organizations around the world are not increasing budget, are not increasing IT, but forcing and demanding they support the BYO scenarios. So the bottom line is we have to be more efficient, we have to be more effective, we have to leverage the capabilities that we already have in place. So as we've been building our next set of investments, and we thought about how can we really enable and help the world to embrace these trends, because these trends around BYO are wonderful. And they're marvelous. It really helps you to help your users be the most productive, the most happy. And when that's the case, great thing and magic happens. So these are the principles that we set out to do. We really focused heavily on the end user experience. And we've built a great and rich and simple end user experience that allows your users to get access to their applications and data across all of their devices. We really focus on helping you to unify your environment. If you think for a minute about the number of infrastructures that you have that you deploy globally, you've got email, you've got Active Directory, you've got System Center. How do we build on top of those and allow you to get more benefit and more value out of that? And finally, a focus, as always, on security and protecting the corporate assets. So now, let's actually dig into a little bit and talk about the actual strategy and what we're doing to enable this. And it all starts with the identity. Everything starts with the identity of that user inside of Active Directory. And if you think about it, the authoritative source for the enterprise identity has been Active Directory for many, many years, with, the majority of the world using that. I've got my consumer identity, and I've got my identity at Microsoft, but everything is based upon that. Well, we've now cloud-optimized Active Directory with Windows Azure Active Directory. So now we can extend your capabilities of Active Directory to the cloud with you in complete control about what you want to have appear inside of that Azure Active Directory. Office 365, Azure, Windows Intune, all authenticate against Active Directory and Azure Active Directory specifically. Now let me give you a couple of interesting data points. Since we released Azure Active Directory, we've had over 265 billion authentications. On average, it takes about, 2 minutes to brew a cup of coffee? In those 2 minutes, Azure Active Directory will have serviced over 1 million authentication requests for users and devices around the world. We service more than 9,000 requests per second with Azure Active Directory. And there's more than 420,000 unique domains that have been uploaded and now represented inside of Azure Active Directory. So everything starts there. We've cloud-optimized Active Directory with Azure Active Directory. Okay, so the next piece in the puzzle is we've also now cloud-optimized System Center with Windows Intune. Now, the majority of you use System Center Configuration Manager to manage your PCs. It's far and away the most commonly used tool. So what we've now built is we've built a set of capabilities in Azure that we call Windows Intune, and we've connected Configuration Manager and Intune. Now you've got a solution that allows you to what we call manage your devices where they live. These consumer devices, They were built to consume the cloud. They're always on. They're always connected. So with Windows Intune, as long as you've got connection to the internet, these devices can be managed. Your users can get what they need to be productive. And the fact that we've connected them, we now give you the ability to leverage the existing skills and capabilities you have in System Center Configuration Manager, extended to the cloud with a cloud-optimized mobile device management solution. One interesting data point that you might want to hear about Intune, we have more than 35,000 unique tenants, organizations, who are using that right now, and it is literally just growing like a weed. So what you get here then is a consistent experience that gives you the ability to manage your PCs and your devices in one console experience, one set of capabilities, not separate infrastructures. Okay? Now, we started this morning with Aston Martin. I would encourage you to go up and take a few minutes and read some of the things that Aston Martin has published on how they're using the different capabilities from Microsoft. Now, Aston Martin has 145 different dealerships in 41 different countries. And they were struggling with how do you enable users to bring in their own PCs and devices. Now, those devices could be Windows phones, iOS, and Android devices. In February, when they learned about what we had done with Windows Intune and how quickly and easily it connected to the Config Manager, they deployed and took advantage of Intune. Now they manage all of their employees' devices, and they have enabled BYO for all their users' devices. They're managing over 800 devices, Windows, iOS, and Android, with the cloud-based Intune solution, but doing all the command and control from their System Center Configuration Management console on premises. So just a wonderful, wonderful solution in doing that. All right. So listen, I am pleased to announce this morning the release, and the preview bits will be available, of Windows Server 2012 R2, System Center Configuration Manager, and System Center 2012 R2, and the latest update to Windows Intune. Okay? These are significant updates to the 2012 releases. We've done this in less than a year. We packed in way more than a year's worth of innovation in these products. Now, I just want to give you just a quick insight into some of the things that we've done here. One of the significant changes that we made in our processes is we did common planning across Windows, Windows Server, System Center, and Intune. Okay, common milestones, a common set of planning capabilities last summer and fall, common cadence, common milestones, we're all on the exact same cadence. And what that has enabled us to do is it's enabled us to bring out more features, more rapidly, more end-to-end scenarios. The other change, and the other thing that is significantly driving this, is our cloud-first principle from an engineering perspective. From a design and from an engineering architectural perspective, we want to design everything for the cloud, for the scalability, for the reliability and the availability that is needed in the cloud, and then bring that on premises. So what you're seeing here is kind of a culmination of all the things that we've learned in operating these 200-plus services that are running at cloud scale and Azure. And as we've learned how to do that and how we've innovated in the cloud, now bringing that on premises for you to run in your data centers through these technologies. And that is one of the things that is enabling us to do this rapid cadence and get value out to you faster. Okay? All right, so do you want to see some of the new capabilities in these R2 releases in Windows Intune? All right. So to do that, let's invite Molly out. Molly's going to come give us a walkthrough of some of the new innovations. So give her a hand. Molly, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Brad.
Hey, thanks for doing this for us this morning.
Good morning, everyone. Users bringing their personal devices into the workplace is no longer just a trend. It's a reality that everyone in this room is facing. And we know it's hard. It's hard to give users access to the resources they need to remain productive while ensuring that your company doesn't suffer a breach of sensitive information that will end up on the front page of the newspaper. So we in the Windows Server, System Center, and Windows Intune engineering teams have been working very hard on this problem. And today I'm going to show you the new solutions that we will bring to market with the R2 wave of releases.
That's great.
These will help you empower your users to work from the devices that they want while remaining in control. So let's take a look. Right here, I've got my personal tablet device running Windows 8.1 that I brought into work, and I want to access my Team SharePoint site. So I'll just navigate down to here, provide my corporate credentials, log in, and here we go. Access denied. But it's actually now prompting me to do something called joining my workplace. So this is a new feature in Windows Server 2012 R2 that we allow allow users to workplace join their devices to their Active Directory.
Yeah, let me just kind of add on to that a little bit. What we've done now in all these capabilities is we allow you to put policy first and foremost on the user's identity, and then also based on the identity of the device. And so while Molly has access to the SharePoint site and then all the data there, the device itself today is unknown to the domain, and so we're not granting access. With, think about what we just talked about here in this workplace join as a modern domain join, where users can now come and subscribe or let the service know about their devices, so that now IT has a view of all the devices that are associated with the user. So let's actually see what it looks like.
Exactly. So then when I will now, doing that actual setup of the workplace join is very simple. I just go through here to settings, change the PC settings, navigate through to network and workplace, enter in my corporate email address, and click join. And so now, because my corporation uses Windows Azure Active Authentication, after I provide my credentials here, it's going to ask me to provide a second form of authentication of my identity.
Now, it'd be great if we could actually do two factors. So, you're registering the device with a service. It'd be great if there would be a way to automatically, have you verify that this is you and this is your device.
Exactly. And so I can simply just use this phone factor to have it give me a quick call so that I can identify. And here we go. Here comes the call. Answer and
thank you for using Microsoft Sign-In Verification System. Press the pound key to finish signing in.
She's actually using her little phone back here.
Goodbye.
And so as simple as that, a couple touches on my phone, I'm now joined to my workplace. So now let's go back and take a look at that SharePoint site.
That's actually a really big deal. As I've talked with a number of organizations around the world, one of the challenges that they have is how do you actually get the users to register and let the service know about their devices? Look about how integrated, how simple that was with the kind of verification and security that you would want.
So here I've re-entered my credentials now that my device is registered, and look, I've got access to my team SharePoint site, and I'm ready to go.
That's great.
So this is great, but I'd also like access to the set of apps and services that my IT department provides for me. So to get that level of support, I just need to do one extra step, which is enroll my device for management. And again, I simply go back to the PC settings into that workplace area, and now I turn on management. This is going to configure my device with the Windows Intune Cloud Management Service. And it will allow IT to push down policies and applications and other resources that I need to be able to work from here.
So we register the device with Azure Active Directory. Now we're registering this device with Intune and making it manageable, if you will, through the Intune service.
And this should not. And it seems to be a little slow talking to our
everyone here's using
service
wireless
today.
right now.
I think. So actually, this will then just prompt me to enter my credentials one more time. The full and that initiates the enrollment process. The full process takes a few minutes to get fully complete. So I think I'll let you believe that I can enter my password correctly again, and we'll move on to my second device here that we.
Child's moment. We have
the Julia Child's
exactly.
Moment. Exactly. So we have the second device here that's already has already moved over, has already both joined the workplace and been enrolled for management. And so and from here I can see that I look at first the network settings. The IT has been able to push down both my VPN settings and then the certificates I need to get on the corporate Wi-Fi. So
and this is the mobile device management coming from the cloud. So cloud optimized mobile device management, all integrated with Configuration Manager.
Exactly. And so through this, I can work easily from this machine, whether I'm in the office or outside the office. In addition to that, I would like access to the set of apps that I need to get my job done. So I go through the company portal here, and I see the catalog of applications that my IT department has published for me. I see here both line of business apps and links to applications in third-party application stores, in public application stores. I also see my list of all of my devices that have been registered for management, and I can do simple tasks like remote wipe or unenroll the devices from management. And then I get that all-important contact information for when I'm in a jam and I need some help. I can swipe up here from the bottom and access my user data through work folders.
Yeah, let me talk a little bit about work folders. This is one of the new capabilities of Windows Server 2012 R2. And think about this as the solution that allows you to enable your users to have access to all their files across all their devices. So with work folders, I can literally save to my device. It automatically replicates all my files up into the file servers in your data center, and then back out to your other devices. So through this experience that Molly's showing you, I can get access to all my apps, all my data to be productive.
Exactly. So let's go take a look at, and then when that data is stored on this device, it's actually encrypted so that it's secure in case the device is lost. And if I unenroll the device from management, I lose access to the data on this device. So the data remains secured even when it's on this personal device. Let's walk through the application installation experience. So I'm going to install the line of business, my company's expense reporting tool. I just simply click install, and that triggers the application download and install as a background process. When it's now complete, I get notification of that. So let's go take a look at the start screen and just go look at my all apps, and I find my expense reports app. I can pin it there to the start menu. Or start screen, and up, we're all set, and I'm ready to go. So as you can see, in a very few steps, I'm able to join my device to the workplace to get access to resources, enroll my device for management to get the other set of apps and configuration I need to remain productive from this device, and I'm all ready to go. So now if we think a few months, a year down the road, I want to pass this device off to my kids, and I'm not going to use it for work anymore. I need an easy way to remove all of this work stuff from the device. So to do that, I just simply go back through PC settings to the workplace area. And I can leave my workplace, just a couple taps here, and I can turn off management, again, with just a couple taps. And so then I go back, and my app is gone, but my family photos are still there, along with my personal apps, and ready to go.
So how many of you have ever had the experience where for some reason IT wipes your device and it wipes everything, right? Corporate data, personal data. How many have had that happen? So this is now a selective wipe, either initiated by the user or by IT, that only removes your corporate data, your corporate asset, but leaves your personal things in place.
Thanks, Brad.
All right, thanks, Molly. Thank you so much. All right, so while we did that demonstration on a Windows device, that company portal is an app that came through the App Store. That same application can be downloaded through the iOS stores, through the Apple stores, and through the Android store. So you actually can have this consistent experience where you as IT can brand yourself to your users. They have that consistent experience across their PCs, their Windows devices, their iOS devices, their Android devices, and it actually has some intelligence built into that. So it understands first who the user is, the device they're working on, and then it actually understands the network location. Are they on the corporate network, or are they not on a corporate network? And it enables them to set policies on all three of those. That is truly enabling what we call people-centric IT, and enables you to make your users productive on all their devices. So let me just kind of summarize here then for a minute. We just walked you through the capabilities that we have, that we've been building in these R2 releases in Intune, that enable you to empower your users, enables to give them that consistent experience across all their devices. You can unify your environment, so PC management, device management, all of your anti-malware, all these things can now be done through one common infrastructure that's now been cloud optimized with Windows Intune, and then protecting the corporate assets and protecting your data. Things like selective wipe, like we just described, also the ability to actually express policy on the actual files themselves using things like IRM in order to secure the data. That's what we're delivering. We know many of you in the audience here and watching this are the desktop administrators, and you're dealing with how do you enable users across all their devices. We have a solution for you, and we think that we have a very, very powerful way to help you do that. Okay? All right, so now we just covered devices, how we enable users across all of those devices and enable things like the BYO trends. Let's now transition to talk about the apps. These devices and users all want rich, great applications. Now, if you ask the developers what they want, developers will tell you things like, wow, for us it's all about time to market. We want to be effective and efficient. We want to develop as rapidly as we can. We want to take advantage of the latest capabilities, the latest technologies. in order to make us more efficient. And finally, we want to make sure that the organization is ready for it. And so, we're trying to understand more, we're trying to implement more around DevOps, but is the organization really ready for that? So as we've built this latest set of capabilities in Windows Azure, as well as in Visual Studio, these are the things that we've had in mind and have been just core precepts and concepts as we built it. First and foremost is about a rapid life cycle. So build, operate, learn, build, operate, learn. And enabling that kind of a cadence as you're developing these applications, whether it be for internal use or for your customers. The ability to build that application and have it accessible across all the devices users want to work on. And finally, making sure that it's secure and that it is highly available and available to your users 24/7 anywhere in the world. And so with that in mind, let's actually talk a little bit about some of the things that we've been doing in Windows Azure. As you think about your public cloud partner and who you're going to identify and really kind of bet on as that strategic partner, there's a couple of things that I would encourage you to keep in mind. One, you're looking for a partner that is investing at the level required to give you reach around the world. And when you build out these public cloud infrastructures, your investment in CapEx is literally measured in the billions. Literally, as we build out Azure, we are deploying hundreds of thousands of servers a year, and it's a significant investment. You're looking for a partner that has a guaranteed SLA and will guarantee that you have that availability. And finally, you want a partner that gives you that flexibility that, you might be running in the cloud today, in the public cloud, but if you want to bring that back into your data center, you have that flexibility and you're not locked in. So let me give you just some of the specifics about Azure. First of all, these are where we have global data centers at. Okay, we just announced last week significant investments in the Asia area. Microsoft is now the first multinational organization that through a partnership will be bringing online this week capacity in our public cloud in mainland China. Okay, so why is that important? That gives you reach now into China, both for your employees as well as for the business opportunity that China itself presents. You want an organization that has the ability to have global support in your language around the world. And these are the locations where we have global support, where we are supporting, you see there at the bottom, over 1 billion customers, over 20 million organizations around the world. You often want to talk and interact with the local account team. And then finally, you want your billing to be done in the local currency. This is the infrastructure and the capabilities that we have been building out inside of Windows Azure. And it has been absolutely one of the most fun and one of the most rewarding things that we've ever done, because it's just such a great opportunity to latch on and innovate, and then we bring that innovation to you, which we're going to talk about a little bit later as we talk about Windows Server. One of the things we thought would be really interesting here is to actually have you hear from a customer about how they're using Windows Azure. And so with that, we're going to invite from EasyJet, the enterprise architect, Bert Craven, on stage to give us a little discussion about how they're using it. Let's give him a hand. Hey, Bert, thanks for being here.
Great to be here.
All right, so Bert, tell us a little bit about EasyJet.
So EasyJet are the largest airline in the UK. We are the 4th largest airline in Europe, and we're in the top 10 in the world in terms of passenger numbers. So by numbers, that means 60 million passengers a year. We have 210 aircraft. We fly our passengers to over 130 destinations in 32 different countries.
So what was the problem that you were struggling with that kind of led you to look at Azure?
So EasyJet are turning 18 this year, and for the first 17 years of our lives, we sold tickets, and our passengers would turn the ticket into a seat by running as fast as they could towards the aircraft at boarding time.
Yeah, kind of like what Southwest here in the United States.
Southwest called free seating. Mm-hmm. It's a full-contact sport, and it's not very popular with our passengers. So we decided that we would move to an allocated seating model, which is a real DNA change for our organization. Our reservation system doesn't understand how to do that, so we had to add that functionality. So as well as tracking the 60 million passengers, now we've got to track the 70 million seats that we fly to understand which seats have been sold and which ones haven't and all that kind of stuff.
So how did Azure then help you with that?
So we decided that this workload was better done on Azure than in our reservation system. And so what we did was we created a seating solution out on Azure, and then we blend the reservation experience and the seating experience together in the browser for the user. I can show you how it works.
Yeah, let's look at it.
Okay, so I'm teed up here on easyjet.com. This is an on-premise website. It has our reservation system behind it. I'm all ready to fly next week with 2 adults, a child, and an infant from London to Madrid. It's going to warn me about flying with an infant.
That's always dangerous.
Yeah, it is. So I can select my flights, and they will be put in my basket here over on the right-hand side, so I now have 2 flights. When I click on Continue, it's going to offer me a whole set of additional options that I can add. And all of those options come from EasyJet.com, except for this top panel up here. Now, when I clicked on Continue just then, the page loaded and then made an AJAX request out to Azure. And Azure understands that this is a seated flight. It understands what seats are remaining. It knows what price bands those seats are in. And any interaction I now do with this top panel here will be done with Azure. So Azure will now draw in a map of the aircraft. It knows all of the seating rules, so it knows that my adult here with an infant can't sit in an exit row. So I'm going to select seats for my 3 passengers. Move on to my next flight, 3 more seats. And then when I click here, Azure is going to fire events down into the parent page. The basket here is listening for those events. And all that my reservation system needs to understand is the output of the conversation I just had with Azure.
So what I love about this is just how integrated it is. So, you're in this web page, you're bringing capacity from your data centers, from Azure, but to the user, it's all seamless.
Absolutely.
Now, I hear you guys have got like a spike in utilization and need in January. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So 60 million of anything is a scale problem. However, we make things worse by, in the second week of January, we put most of our summer inventory on sale at slash-down prices. And our website then has to deal with around 20,000 concurrent users, filling 10 planes a minute for about a week. And that's a real struggle.
So that sounds like a stampede, too.
Yeah, it is. It's tough.
So then how do you deal with that?
Well, so 10 planes a minute on Azure kind of looks like this. So this is my seating management portal on Azure. And as we move into our January sale, I can have somebody log on here. They can dial up full fire hose mode, click save, and we're running 10 planes a minute within minutes.
Just scales up just like that, just that easy.
Absolutely. This is incredibly powerful for my business, for the way that we deliver our IT, and ultimately how we deliver customer value.
Great. That is just wonderful. Bert, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Let's give him a hand, everybody. And more often we're seeing that as just one of the core scenarios that we see in Azure, where there's a set of assets and capabilities that you have in your data centers. They need to be optimized, they need to be modernized, or you need the scale that Bert talked about there. And that's one of the great things that Azure provides. So thank you, Bert, for doing that for us. Okay, let's now dive in deeper into some of the things that we're doing in Azure, as well as some of the things we're doing in Visual Studio. And let's start inviting Scott Guthrie to the stage. Let's give him a hand. Hey, Scott, how you doing?
Hey, good. Thanks, Brad. All right. So we've talked about how Windows Azure provides a great platform for running apps in the cloud. And one of the things we're doing this week is also making it a fantastic environment for dev test, including for teams that want to be able to develop their apps in the cloud, but still deploy them in an on-premises environment. So what makes the cloud great for dev test? Well, in a word, it's agility. As a developer, I can use the cloud to easily create resources when I need them, tear them down when I don't need them, and be able to do it in minutes without ever having to ask anyone to do something for me. For example, as a developer with Windows Azure, I could use Windows Azure to create a new virtual machine. If I needed more resources, I could add a second virtual machine and connect them with a virtual network, and perhaps even add a database. And the beauty is I can do all of this myself in a matter of minutes. And at night, I can install any software I want within these virtual machines. So I can install SharePoint or SQL or BizTalk and basically configure them and use them however I need for my dev test environment. And the great thing is at night or on the weekends, if I'm not using these virtual machines, I can just go ahead and send a command to shut them down. And because with Windows Azure, you only pay for what you use, this enables you to save a lot of money over what you otherwise would spend in a traditional on-premise dev test environment. And because the virtual machines that we use inside Windows Azure use the exact same version of Windows Server that runs on premises, when I'm ready to deploy my application, I can choose to deploy the app in the cloud, or I can just go ahead and actually deploy it to my on-premises data center environment. The great thing about this is it allows me to go ahead and take advantage of the cloud for dev test, while even if I'm not actually deploying my production app ultimately in it. So this core workflow I kind of walked through is available and has been available for a little while within Windows Azure. What we're doing though this week is making a set of announcements and releases that makes it even better. First one here is that we no longer charge for stop VMs running inside Windows Azure. Prior to today, if you stopped a VM, we still kept it deployed in a deployment slot on a compute cluster and still charge you for an hourly rate unless you actually explicitly deleted it. Now, starting today, when you stop a VM, it stops and you no longer get billed, but you can still go ahead and recreate it and just hit start on it in order to boot it back up and run it again. We're also today moving to a new per-minute billing model with Windows Azure. Previously, with Windows Azure, if you spun up a VM and ran it for, say, 36 minutes in an hour and then shut it down, you'd still be billed for the entire hour. Starting today, we now prorate the number of minutes that you use the VM for. And so if you spin it up for 36 minutes and shut it down, you only pay for the 36-minute equivalent of that rate. Both this, as well as the stop VMs without charging improvement, enables you to save a tremendous amount of money, and it's ideal for an elastic dev test workload. We're also today enabling you to use your MSDN server licenses on Windows Azure at no charge. You can install them within any virtual machine on Windows Azure, or you can actually just go ahead and deploy pre-created virtual machine images that we have within the Windows Azure Management Portal. And to make it even better, we're also today announcing a new special rate for MSDN subscribers that you can now use to run any number of virtual machines within Windows Azure using all of our server products for dev test scenarios. This allows you to run Windows Server, SQL Enterprise, and BizTalk Enterprise at up to a 97% discount off of the standard rate. You can spin up any number of virtual machines you want within Windows Azure and run at these rates. And this translates into an enormous cost savings for dev test, and it's really unmatched by anyone else in the market. We're also today excited to announce a new MSDN subscription offer that provides up to $150 a month of free Windows Azure credits. You can use these credits on any Windows Azure resource for dev test. And the great thing is they're per subscriber, so each member of your dev team can now actually have their own dev test environment within Windows Azure, and you get these credits every month to spend on it. So for example, if you're an MSDN Premium customer, you get $100 of credits a month. You could use these with the discounted rates and all the other features I just mentioned to spin up 3 virtual machines and run them for 16 hours each day of a 31-day month. Still have a little bit left over. Or you could spin up 80 virtual machines for 20 hours to do a load test run. Or you could spin up 50 HD Insight Hadoop nodes to do MapReduce jobs for 10 hours. Or you could run up to 100 websites against a SQL database. Again, all of these scenarios you can do, plus a lot more. The great thing about the credits is they basically allow you to use any Windows Azure resource in whatever combination you want for dev test purposes. And again, it's available to all MSDN subscribers. And so every member of your team gets these sets of credits and can start using the cloud immediately for dev test. To make it even easier for you to track how much of these credits you've used, we've also today updated the Windows Azure Management Portal so that you can now go ahead and just click at the top and see precisely how much of the hours and credits that you've taken advantage of as part of your MSDN subscription, how much is remaining. You click the details, you can even see a burn down chart, see exactly how much of the free credits you've used and when you used them, and based on your current usage, when they're going to expire in the future. And the great thing is every month you get new credits, so you can use this as a way, again, for each developer in your team to have their own dev test environment, be able to keep track of them, and be able to really use the cloud to get a tremendous amount more agility and more productivity out of it. And what's great is, because I can actually use the cloud to both dev test and then deploy onto Windows Azure, I can also, though, use the cloud to dev test and deploy in my on-premises environment. So it's really an offer that any MSDN customer and any developer developing, frankly, on any platform can take advantage of and see tremendous agility and savings from. So you can, everyone here watching online or in the audience can actually go to the windowsazure.com website today in order to sign up for Windows Azure or activate their new MSDN benefits offer and start taking advantage of all these capabilities that I mentioned. And Brad had a cool trick this morning where he rode in on an Aston Martin car. I thought actually I might try to one-up him here by actually giving one away. And one of the things we're excited to announce is for anyone that actually goes to windowsazure.com, who's an MSDN subscriber, and who actually signs up and activates their MSDN benefits on Windows Azure and builds an app before the end of September, will actually be enrolled in a special sweepstakes offer that we're going to do. And one lucky person will get a chance to drive away with their own Aston Martin car. And hopefully for the people that don't win, they still find that the actual Windows Azure account and MSDN benefits are still sort of priceless and something to actually take advantage of. And so we're looking forward to seeing what you do with them. We hope it really enables you to have a tremendous amount more agility and be able to take advantage of it for both cloud as well as on-premises based deployments.
To date, with over 4 million downloads already. At the same time, we introduced our Visual Studio Continuous Updates program. And since then, we've shipped 2 major updates and are about to ship our 3rd. They also have been incredibly popular. In fact, Update 2, within 1 month of the release of Update 2, over 50% of Visual Studio 2012 users had already updated. So sort of in that vein of continuous updates, let me talk to you about the next major version of Visual Studio. So we are going to ship Visual Studio 2013 and Team Foundation Server 2013 later this year. And we will ship a preview on June 26th along with the Build Conference. So please look for that and download it and give us your feedback. So I'm going to spend a little time talking to you about what's in our releases that are coming this year. So we think kind of the biggest problem with software development today is iteration. How do we help developers figure out how to get from idea to implementation to into customers' hands, back to feedback, and to next idea, and iterate that rapidly? We made a bunch of progress on that in Visual Studio 2012, and we're continuing in that vein for Visual Studio 2013. So let's take a look at some of the new features that we have. So let's start with project management. If you use Visual Studio 2012, then you're familiar with our new Agile project management capabilities that allow a team to have a backlog, to prioritize it, to break that backlog down into iterations or sprints, and then to manage the work in those sprints on a day-to-day basis with a task board. In 2013, we're taking that to the next step and trying to figure out how to help organizations managing larger projects made up of many small teams sort of manage that work as a whole. So we've added hierarchical backlogs that enable you to have an overall backlog for your organization. So here I've got a backlog of features for my organization. I can then drill into that backlog and see the specific user stories that play against those features. And you'll see that each of those are assigned to the appropriate feature teams. I can even drill down and see the individual tasks if I want to. And this allows me to roll up all of my work against some higher level concept of progress or value for my organization. All right, let's also talk about collaboration. Another important value that we've always viewed in Team Foundation Server is the notion of development team collaboration and making that first class. So we've got a new feature coming in Team Foundation Server 2013 that we call Team Room. And it is sort of a durable record of everything that's happening in your team. So you can see here check-ins that have happened, code reviews, work items that have been changed. And it's a general space where the team can collaborate. It's a message area where we can have active conversations. So imagine that I was out sick yesterday, and I came in this morning, and I want to catch up on what happened. So I can come to the team room, I can simply go back to the record for yesterday, find out what happened, and all of these are active links that I can drill into and learn more about. So it enables the whole team to kind of stay on the same page. All right, well, we can't have a conversation about Visual Studio without talking about code. So let's talk about what we're doing for the developer who's writing code all day. So one of the biggest problems that a developer has is context. So I'm busy, focused on my code, but there's a lot of stuff outside of the code that I'm looking at, information that will help me understand that code, particularly if it's code I'm not particularly familiar with. We're adding a new feature in Visual Studio 2013 that I call a heads-up display. It overlays onto your code, like a heads-up display does, information that's useful to you. So if you look here at this method create, there's a line right above it that is the heads-up display with a set of indicators. And one of them, for example, is references. That shows me all of the places that this code is referenced, and I can hover and see the context in the calling method. We also have a tests indicator. That as you're coding, Visual Studio is running tests in the background, and if at any point one of those tests starts failing, the indicator will immediately light up and let you know. So here you can see I've got 2 tests, one of them failing and one of them passing. I can either fix the method immediately, or I can drill into the test itself and debug the test. We've also got a change indicator. Maybe you're looking at this method and something doesn't look right. It looks different, or you're not sure who to talk to about it. You can quickly see that Brian Keller was the last person to change this code and see the list of all the lists of recent changes, drill into those, and see for this method, these are the recent changes. So a really easy and convenient way to project into your source code a bunch of contextual information. All right, so let's imagine that I fixed all my bugs and I'm kind of happy with this, and I think I'm ready to ship it. But before I do, I'd like to make sure that it's going to work in production. I want to make sure it scales, I want to make sure it performs, I want to make sure it's reliable. So before I do, I'd like to run a load test, just to make sure. This is a pretty big app. It's about 10,000 users that use this app. It's a little daunting because setting up the infrastructure to run a 10,000 user load test can be a pain. It's a lot of machines I got to set up. And it's particularly for something I don't do all that often, it's just not worth it. This is a perfect scenario for the cloud. So we're introducing, as part of Visual Studio 2013, a new cloud load test service that enables you to load test your application from the cloud. You just write your load test the same way you always have since Visual Studio 2005 when we introduced load testing. I create my load test. The difference is, in my load test settings, I now have the ability to run the test using Visual Studio Team Foundation service. So I simply take my load test and click run, and that will automatically upload my test to the cloud and begin the load test. Load tests take a few minutes, so I'm going to switch to one I ran a little bit ago. And here we can see, as the load test runs, it will show you progress. And I can see here that as my load scaled up, it looks like my response time stayed pretty good, so I'm feeling good about this app. I feel like I'm ready to release it into production. Which brings me to the next problem that developers face, which is the process of getting code into production. We figured out how to enable our development teams to be agile and iterate rapidly, but we always run into this roadblock of delivering into production. So I'm announcing today that we've reached an agreement to acquire a product called InRelease from InCycle Systems. InRelease is a release management product built specifically for Team Foundation Server that helps you manage scalable release processes from very simple to very formal. So here I'm looking at a release for an application where I've defined a moderately formal release process that includes dev, QA, and production stages. Each of those stages has a set of release criteria, an owner, someone who has to approve the change, and then I can define a common flow for those things and a set of configuration variables like database connections, etc., for each environment. Then as a release manager, I can go to the release management portal, see the sets of releases and where they are in their life. And I see here that I've got a release that is done with QA and ready for me to approve to go to production. I can simply click approve, say it's good, and that will automatically trigger the transition of that release from QA to production, which fires off some notifications to our operations teams, triggers some additional automation, and it helps me provide a repeatable, reliable way of driving new software into production. So as you can see, we continue to drive forward on the breadth of the application lifecycle, including helping with planning, development, testing, and release. So please, if you want to learn more, come see my foundation session, which is immediately after the keynote, where I'll spend a bunch more time drilling into these. And please check out the preview later this month. So thank you very much, and I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Brad.
You know, I got to say, that's actually one of the coolest demos I've seen of Visual Studio, and some of the things that we're doing in terms of innovating around collaboration and making developers more efficient, more effective. I just absolutely love it. Okay, started with devices, talked about enabling users on those devices, creating the applications now for the devices and the users to consume. Let's now talk a little bit about data. Okay, and let's talk a little bit about the amount of data and the trends that are happening around that. First of all, data growth. Right now, IDC is telling us that there's a 60% CAGR in growth in the amount of data that's being generated around the world. What that means is in a short 5 years, we'll have 10 times the amount of data that we have right now. Unbelievable growth in terms of data. Second, 85% of that data that's being generated is coming from new devices, so sensors and RFIDs and logs. Third, you know, the business users, their expectations are just increasing. And they're asking us to deliver the data in ways that users of all levels, from the CXO down to a program manager or a product manager, can take a look at that data and try to gain the insights out of it. I think Gartner said it best when they said, listen, the organizations that actually build out a modern information management system in 2015 will be 20% more profitable, financially better than its competitors. So as we thought about what we wanted to do in terms of data and enabling you to gain the insights out of that data to advance your business, to better serve your customers, we really focus in these areas. And we focus on how do we make that easy access to all the data across the board. Powerful analytics for all. And finally, delivering what we call a complete data platform. So let's actually take a look at what that all means. And to do that, Quentin from the data platform, who's going to come walk us through what our strategy and vision is here. Let's give him a hand. All right. Thanks, Quentin.
Thanks, Brad. Good morning. I'm really excited to be here at TechEd North America this year, talking about the change that's coming and how information is going to affect every business. There's a renaissance happening in the role of information and the ability to embrace new kinds of data for every business. So to make that a little more personal, let me start with just a little vignette to give people an idea. Imagine you walk into a large retailer. It could be auto parts, could be home supplies, home improvement, that kind of thing. And because you're enrolled in their membership and loyalty program, you have an app installed on your, hopefully, Windows phone. You walk in, through geofencing, the application lights up. And the application in the retail store guides you through your experience in the store. And even as you get to things like getting to a particular aisle, looking for a particular kind of product, you're being fed information on the screens that are up in the aisle that are helping you, guiding you through that whole experience, including, you know, brand-specific things or incentives, that kind of stuff. And then as you get to the checkout aisle, of course, you know, all the loyalty programs that you're in and the retail membership and all that, all just sort of magically transact correctly at the checkout counter. What's behind that, behind the scenes, is data. Right? There is a huge change in what kinds of information and what's being done with the information to achieve those kinds of scenarios. Part of it's big data. Certainly the notion of having GPS telemetry of every consumer experience in every store on the planet, there's a lot of data there, and we have to be able to process that data. But it's not just the different data types, it's also the different data sources. So it's not just the traditional line of business data that we're talking about. It's new data signals that come from within the enterprise, but also come from a broad variety of different sources. Different partners, different industries, different analytics from different kinds of companies. We're even finding situations where competitors are collaborating on certain kinds of data. And then there are the aspects of visualizing all that information and creating the stories for the insights, understanding ultimately what that information really means. So there's this variety of information, the visualizations, and putting that to analytics. All that has to be done in a way where the expectation now is that things are happening much more real time. And as an industry, we're embracing things like in-memory as a way to achieve a much more rapid cadence of how business and information come together. All this put together means that data changes everything. Industry by industry, customer by customer, I'm having conversations where I'm finding out that the companies that are embracing the new kinds of information, the new source signals that are out there in the world, it's fundamentally changing their business. At Microsoft, we're building a complete data platform that catalyzes that change, democratizes it. You start by finding information. That information could be starting with your traditional line of business data, embracing new data signals that your own business is generating, but then reaching out into the world and finding other information sets that are valuable. Putting those together in new ways, combining the data into different ways of looking at how your business is affected. Creating theories, forming theories about how the business interacts, how a signal from the weather can affect fuel pricing, or how a signal from a package shipping company can affect the viability of a small loan. Creating those theories and analyzing the data in that way. And even that sort of can often restart the cycle where you now reach for more information because you have another idea, another theory on what the effect and interaction is. You go from that step, the aha moments are fantastic. They need to be operationalized. And they need to be operationalized at tremendous scale. It's not enough just to have that moment, but you have to be able to have the machinery, have that moment and operationalize that on a continuous basis. This whole cycle is how we get from data to insight. And it has to be done in a way that's easy, powerful, and complete. Easy, of course, starts with the tools. By embracing the next generation of Excel, how we're baking BI and the power of BI and analytics deeply into Excel, we're giving people a tool they already know. This isn't some separate tool, some separate product you have to go learn. We're making it easy for people to obtain that data. By creating features in Excel, like our codename Data Explorer, we're allowing people to go to the marketplace, not just finding their own data, but going out into the world and finding other information sets that can help them understand their business. Easy also means in deployment and scale. Whether it's the on-prem SQL Server product or the work we do in Azure with the Blob Store and with Azure Database, the deployment and scale and the turnkey nature of being able to build large-scale applications, data management, and analytics. The power has to be there. The power in the visualizations, there's a power in those stories, the power in the analytics, and the power in the underlying systems. And this is where the real-time nature, things like our Stream Insight, our continuous and processing work, are key aspects of how we're enabling this next generation of insight. And complete. It has to be the entire ecosystem of the platform. It's not enough to have a good visualization tool. It's not enough to have a powerful database. It's not enough to have the kind of ability to find data and have a marketplace for information. And it turns out it takes this entire cycle and takes the entire complete platform. As a key component of that, I'm very happy to be introducing today Microsoft SQL Server 2014. SQL Server 2014 moves the bar forward on all these dimensions. We're making it easier to create availability. We're making it easier to take advantage of Azure with the hybrid scenarios of backup. We're making it more powerful on the work we've already started with in-memory. And we're making it complete by rounding out that in-memory work into transaction processing in memory. Our in-memory journey in SQL Server 2000 and SQL Server 2014 began actually with Excel, where we, with our Power Pivot and Power View work, we empowered users to manipulate millions of records in real-time interactivity. We took that compressed column work and we brought it back into an analysis server where you could operationalize the work that's being done by knowledge workers in that self-service BI meme. And then we further brought back into the database in the RDBMS for the columnar index capabilities in memory in SQL Server 2012. The latest release of Parallel Data Warehouse 2.0 that shipped just a couple months ago has taken that, moved that forward. Better performance, compression capability, and more. And we're bringing that all into SQL Server 2014. But importantly, we're also bringing transaction processing into the in-memory modern world. We're building our transaction processing work directly into the database. It's not a separate product. It's not a separate thing to program to. We're baking it right in. And we were doing it because it is a way to achieve unprecedented latency and scale, low latency and high scale and throughput for transactional data. We have an early adopter of this technology, EdgeNet. They built a retail SaaS solution for inventory management. And if you've ever had the experience, you walk into a store and you ask, do you have this particular product? And they say, yeah, we have this product, we think, but we need to go to the shelves and find out. As a database guy, I always found this a little bit puzzling. But what it turns out is that when you look at some of these larger retail situations, being able to do real-time inventory management is a challenge. There's a lot of products moving on a day-to-day basis. EdgeNet, by embracing SQL Server 2014's transaction processing and memory technology, has moved that cadence from once a day batch updating the inventory out of the line of business system to near real time. So you walk in the store and you ask if there's a product that's in inventory, they have the answer for you, and the answer is accurate. It's transformed their business. Of course, the solid platform upon which the data is built in the first place is one piece of this. But that overall data changes everything arc means you have to have the right analytics. And you have to have the right ability to understand the data that you're working with. And to talk about this more, I'd like to invite Aaron Kelly up. They can't see you. There we go.
Thanks, Quinn.
Aaron Kelly is my marketing partner, and literally every day, or at least once a week or so, we work at a board just like this one. So I have a PPI, a little smaller. I got the 60-inch, not the 80-something inch, board in my office. These are Windows 8 touchscreen machines, and the ability to stand instead of sit at a conference table with printouts, but to stand at a device like this and interact with our BI data has really transformed our business. And we have an interesting data set that I think Aaron has prepared for us.
That's right, Quentin, and thanks. It's great to be here at TechEd. What I have here today is data on everyone in this room. Let's go unlock some insights using my favorite tool, Excel. And what you see here is the registration data from TechEd. And it's helpful. I can sort of see cities and states and some things, but it's kind of hard to get a lot of insights out of it in this format. So I'm going to go ahead and launch one of my favorite new features of Excel called Project GeoFlow. And this is a code name of a new, very powerful mapping tool that we've made part of Excel, and it's in preview right now as a great new add-in.
So what he's doing right now is he's selecting various columns he's interested in. And notice he didn't go to some mapping function or have to dig into some code or do column selection in some other tool. Built right in as part of Excel. GeoFlow looked at what he was looking at and immediately brought out the columns, the data sets that it thought might be relevant.
Exactly. So we can see where people are from. Like here's some folks from TechEd from the United States and the different cities. We've got a lot of people from Europe. It's great to see this number of people here from Europe. We've even got some folks from Africa. Where are the folks from Africa out there? Little claps, okay, we got a few out there. There we go, there we go. There's a few folks from South America. And so this is kind of helpful. It allows me, versus the columns and rows, it allows me to kind of see where people are from. But I need more insight. We need to get more data out of this, more insight. So what do you think? What city contributed the most attendees to TechEd?
North America? Probably New York, Chicago, somewhere in Texas, San Francisco.
Let's take a look. Redmond, of course it's Redmond. There's so many Microsofties here.
And we love coming out in force.
We love coming to TechEd and talking to our customers about a great new technology. Okay, so you did okay on that first test. Now let's go to Europe. Let's go to Europe. Now, what do you think? What city and what country do you think represents the greatest number of attendees here at TechEd North America?
Well, it's got to be London, UK, right?
Think so?
I think so.
All right, let's take a look. Stockholm, it's Sweden. Where are the Swedes out here? There we go. There's a few of them over there. Sweden actually has the most.
They cluster in these two areas.
Sweden actually has the most folks from Europe here at TechEd North America. It's very excited to have the Swedes in the house. Very, very excited. Now, what's kind of cool is I can see big trends in the data with GeoFlow, much better than those columns and rows. But what I also want to be able to do is dive in. So let me zoom in here and take a look at one of my favorite cities in North America, Miami. Okay, so I can zoom in, and this is one of the things that's really great about GeoFlow, is I can zoom in, and let's take a look at this data. Now, what I want to do is find out more about who's here from Miami. So let me go ahead and add the titles of all the folks that are here in Miami. Look at that. Now let me pull back a little bit.
It's very tall.
Very tall. So here are the titles of the folks here from Miami. So let's take a look. What do we got here? We got an application analyst. We've got an associate director, pretty common. Business technology consultant. Whoa, are you kidding me? The chief geek?
Chief geek.
There is a chief geek from Miami. And I can't make this up. I'm not that good. And so what I've got here is I've got the official geek bag and the geek hat. You, sir, are the chief geek of TechEd 2013. Come to the booth, bring your badge with the chief geek tag on it, and you will get this bag and hat. It's awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Now, Quentin, what's so cool about this is with GeoFlow, I was able to see the big trends in the data, but I was also able to drill down into a very specific data point. And I was able to take a huge event like TechEd and personalize it for one person. Someone had a very special keynote experience just now.
A chief geek.
That's right, the chief geek of TechEd. But let's keep going. What I've also got here is a typical Power View workbook.
Standard Power View is part of Excel 2013.
Standard Power View. And what I've done is I've brought in session data. So people pre-register for sessions at TechEd. And I wanted to take a look at the data because I want to know who's going to be in various sessions. You know, it helps you tune your anecdotes or pick which case studies to cover. So if I take this first session here, the foundational session, big data, small data, all data that Sean Bice is going to do here in a few minutes, I want to see who's coming to a session. Well, all I have to do is press the bar, and I can see some of the trends. So telecommunications and consumer products are going to be a higher disposition in his event. I can see the Swedes are out in force there for big data and small data. It's great to see them. And some folks from the UK as well. This is actually in contrast to when I click here on the SQL Server Futures session. We see insurance kind of pop, which makes sense if you think about the real-time transaction processing you're talking about. Having some of that extra oomph in some of their insurance applications makes a lot of sense. You know, and this is so easy to use, even a VP can do it. Right?
Thanks.
Yeah. And so you may be asking yourself, yeah, okay, fine, you've been able to personalize a bit of a TechEd experience, but how many companies have a big TechEd like this? Well, there's not many. But how many of you in the audience have a website where you collect customer information? Let's see some hands, okay? Yeah, pretty much everybody's got a website that collects customer information. But how many of you have provided a dashboard like this for your sales and marketing teams that allows them to understand who's coming to a particular event so they can tune their story and their anecdotes? Very, very powerful and very, very easy to do with our technology.
So this is great, and this is analogous to a lot of the views that we look at kind of on a week-to-week basis. But we also look at a lot of non-line of business data sources, non-structured data sources, stuff from Twitter, stuff from our logs, and all that stuff. What about that?
Yeah, exactly. And so what I wanted to highlight as well is another codename project, Data Explorer, that's a great new feature in Excel. And this allows you to connect Excel to all kinds of sources. There's kind of classic databases, as well as new kinds of sources, like the Windows Azure Marketplace to import third-party data sets like you talked about earlier, as well as Windows Azure. And let me go ahead and connect right now.
So the Data Explorer experience has enabled you to, with search and with finding things, reach out and grab more information sets, not just type in connection strings. And it's a key part of this whole new ability to find and connect and relate information.
There we go. There we go. We're trying.
There we go.
Let me pull up the other screen here. Give me a second.
Yeah, so he's just entering in the name of the cluster. So what he has is we've actually built out the data stores, the streams out in Azure and blobs, and we're using HD Insight, the Azure service, to do Hadoop processing over that data set.
Exactly. And so what you can see here is a bunch of blobs of data. And what we've been tracking over the last couple of weeks is the tweets that are out there with the hashtag of TechEd. And so what I've done is we pulled that down into Hadoop, and we've gotten this. We've gotten this.
Yeah, but you understand that? How's that?
I actually don't understand that. But fortunately, Data Explorer is a very, very powerful query engine. So I can start doing some transformations here on this data.
So just like using any other column manipulation tools, right, as part of Excel, he's able to go in now and transform and change and pull things out of the various columns and pull out just the information sets, even from this large set of unstructured data that he's really looking for.
Exactly right. And it's so easy to do that even a marketing guy can do it. Right? And so as I'm doing is I'm basically parsing this data into something that's a lot more interesting. And now I went from sort of that blob of stuff to something that looks a lot more structured. And what's really cool is it tracks my steps. So this is repeatable. I can do this again. And even better, it scales. So
this
as you
is
can see here,
there's a language expression here that lets us repeat this process. So we can do it at scale over large sets of data, and it can be repeated. So you've all had the experience, you get some Excel, it gets refreshed, and then you're back in there madly changing the columns and all that stuff. As part of operationalizing this, what we learned with Power View was having people build Power View models and operationalizing them in Analysis Server. We're doing the same meme here.
Exactly right. So very, very cool. Now, I don't want to pull all this data down because it'll take a little time. So I want to go back to my favorite tool in Excel, GeoFlow. And I want to show you a fourth dimension. And that dimension is time. Okay, so here we go. These are the tweets as they've happened over the last couple of weeks leading up to TechEd.
So you hit play, and now we're running across.
Yeah, so we're adding time, the time dimension, to this. And so you can see some of these tweets jumping out here.
I think it paused.
Oh, did I pause it? Okay, good. Awesome. Let's go. So we can see the tweets coming. And where do they start? Well, they start in Redmond. You start to see those tweets coming alive in Redmond as folks at Microsoft starting to get very excited about TechEd. Let's roll over here to Europe and see what we have happening in Europe. Yep, there we go. We see Europe starting to come alive. You see the Swedes. The Swedes are here. They're starting to tweet, but the Dutch, look out for the Dutch. They're coming. Where are the Dutch in the audience? There we go. We got a few Dutch. Now let's come back to North America and see what's happening in North America as we get, again, closer and closer to TechEd.
So Redmond's completely lit up now. Now we're seeing the East Coast.
St. Louis is starting to happen. Whoa. What just happened there?
Something happened in Louisiana.
Something just happened down there in Louisiana. Let's drill into that. Where is that? Where are all those tweets coming from? Where could those be coming from? Where?
I have a suspicion.
Oh my gosh, it's TechEd! I'm out.
Thank you, Aaron. So what you've seen is how the arc of embracing new insights and new kinds of data can help us, even us, change an event like TechEd. How will data change everything for you and your business? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Fred. All right, what do you think about that? You think that's a set of capabilities you would love to be able to expose to all your users, to the executives, to all the individuals that are driving the business? I think it's just wonderful, wonderful sets of capabilities. So if I just recap, this new world of data, and as Quentin Steno talked about, data changes everything. It's about getting all the data, all the new kinds of data, combining it, putting rich visualization capabilities on it to really unlock all the insight. And in this world of big data, it's just not the data in your data centers. You're going to be using data from partners, from service providers, from the public cloud. You really want to take advantage of the data where it lives at, but bring it all together in a way that really advances your business and allows you to, again, serve your customers even better. All right, we're in the home stretch, everybody. We started with devices. How we're enabling users across all their devices. Innovation on developing the applications that get consumed on the devices. The insights that can be unlocked from all these applications. Now let's talk about the cloud platform itself. And the cloud platform is required to host all the things we just walked you through. Now, as we think about that, one of the unique positions that Microsoft is in is today we're operating more than 200 cloud services and Windows Azure. You know, when you are operating a set of services that are always available, always on, you're managing across hundreds of thousands of servers, you're deploying hundreds of thousands of servers every year. You have to automate everything. You relentlessly drive out cost and complexity because you have to be able to respond at a moment's notice to the business. You saw how easy it was for EasyJet to just add capacity. So one of the things I think is very unique and why I would make the statement to you that we are the best organization for you to partner with as you think about moving to the cloud is our commitment to take everything that we're learning across these services in Azure and deliver it to you for you to benefit in your data center, whether you're a traditional IT organization or whether you're a service provider. So as we were defining, the R2 releases of Windows last summer, these are the things that we really focused on. First of all, we know that you're going to be using multiple clouds, and so giving you a data center without boundaries and the ability to be able to take advantage of cloud capacity wherever it sits at, one of the core principles in which we designed in. This concept of just cloud innovation everywhere. So innovation in compute, in storage, in networking, in hybrid scenarios is just foundational to everything that we've done in this release. And finally, we do all this to make dynamic application delivery possible, to allow you to, as Brian talked about, to build, to iterate, to learn, and to continually be in this cycle of innovating and deploying new capabilities in the applications and services that you do. And so with that, what I actually wanted to do here is just give you another example of an organization that is using these capabilities. And we're going to hear from an organization named Trek. For those of you who mountain bike, you're going to know who these people are. Let's take a look at this.
Trek Bicycle Corporation was founded in a small town with a handful of employees in a barn, has grown to become a really great global story. Two cornerstones of our success are ensuring that we have the best products and ensuring that we make our retailers wildly successful. Technology plays a critical role in both of those objectives. We do see pretty big swings from season to season, and we see that at the retail level. The tools we have in place today allow us to forecast more accurately than ever, to work with our retailers to ensure that we're going to have the appropriate product in stock. We're always looking for new ideas, new technologies, new solutions. We offer Ascend to our retailers as their operating system, a way that they can manage their business effectively. Azure represents the next generation of how we support our retailers, how we support our systems.
Azure allows us to dynamically scale our applications on demand. These can be as simple as scaling up our web front ends during the day when we have a lot of customer-facing traffic, and then at night scaling the web front ends down and bringing up additional worker roles to process data offline for reporting and analytics. Azure VMs are really easy to work with. They're just Hyper-V VMs. They're VMs that you can run anywhere, be it on Azure or on your laptop or in your data center. So it's a very familiar environment to work with, and they also run anything that you can run. So we could just pick up our SQL installs and pick up right where we left off. It's just easy.
We can focus more on actually doing what we like to do, which is go bike riding, which is take our application to the next level and not have to worry about the infrastructure behind it.
I love what Adam said in that. They're just Hyper-V VMs. All of Windows Azure runs on top of Hyper-V. It's the same hypervisor that's driving the public cloud that we deliver to you to run in your data centers. And I'm going to talk more about this, but this promise of consistency across all of the clouds is just fundamental to everything that we're doing. So again, this morning, we are announcing Windows Server 2012 R2, System Center 2012 R2. The previews will be available in June, with these releases being available by the end of the year. And again, this is a one-year iteration for us. And I can guarantee you we've done a lot more innovation than I think that you would expect that we would have done in a single year. At its most basic level, what you're seeing in these R2 releases is the learnings that we've taken from all of the services and from Azure and delivering it in the box for all of you to use. Okay, it really is building on this cloud-first design principle where everything we do from an engineering perspective is focused on designing for the cloud, but delivering to you those same capabilities. Okay, let me just talk a little bit more about this consistency. Consistency across clouds is one of the things that you should absolutely have at the top of your list as you're looking at your cloud decisions. And why is that important? If things are consistent, if you have the same virtualization, the same management, the same developer interfaces, you have the same identity, and you have consistency across data, what that allows you to do is you can just move VMs and applications across clouds. No conversion, no migration, no friction. That is why this is just so critical. So let's get really concrete about some of the ways that we're doing this. And I'm pleased to announce this morning a new thing that we have called the Windows Azure Pack. And what this is literally taken the innovation in Windows Server and delivering that, excuse me, in Windows Azure, and delivering that on top of Windows Server and System Center. So literally, we are taking and we're proving things out, we're trying it, we're battle testing it, we're hardening in Azure, and then through the Windows Azure Pack, we deliver that, and it just drops right on top of Azure, of Windows Server and of System Center. So let me give you just a couple of examples. The portal experience that you've been seeing all morning, where you come up and there's this rich portal experience for your users to be able to consume the cloud capacity, that's delivered through Azure Pack in order for you to take advantage for your customers and for your employees. High-density web hosting. So the ability to put, for example, 5,000 web servers on a single Windows Server instance, pioneered in Azure, brought to you to run in your data centers. Things like Service Bus. So the ability for you to actually have all your applications connected across clouds through the Service Bus, delivered to you on top of Windows Server and System Center. And finally, a set of APIs that allow developers to develop an application, and then that application can be deployed in their cloud of choice. That is what we call the Azure Pack, and bring all that value of Azure on top of Windows Server and System Center for you. So now let's take a look at it. Let's actually take a look at the self-service experience that you can now deliver out to your customers, whether you're IT or a service provider delivering to your tenants. Let's take a look at what we've done of taking that experience and now delivering that for you to use on top of Windows Server. And to do that, Claire's going to come out and give us a demo. Let's give her a hand. Hey, Claire.
Hey, thanks, Brad. With the Windows Azure Pack, we take code that was built for the cloud in the cloud, deliver it to you, add Windows Server, add System Center, and you have an integrated stack. A stack to build your clouds that are consistent with Azure. Let's take a look. Notice this looks just like Azure. I have the same ability to deliver high-density websites, virtual machines, networking. Take a closer look. This is the Contoso Cloud, built on the Contoso Windows Server and System Center infrastructure. And I've logged in using my Active Directory credentials. Let's look at my virtual machines I have deployed. Notice I have a number of standalone virtual machines. These could be Windows Server or Linux distributions. Take a look. I have this web app that's deployed with multiple instances. This is the new virtual machine role. This new role type allows you to take your application, deploy it into the VM, and then scale it out using multiple instances. Let me show you how easy it is to deploy one of these. Click New, go to my gallery, and because I'm logged in as Claire, I'm given this specific set of workloads. And these are pretty common workloads you'd see in your data center. Active Directory, SharePoint, SQL Server. Think of these as the IT pre-approved standard offerings. And this ability to standardize and automate these offerings really helps you reduce complexity and drive optimization in your organization. I'm going to choose IS, click through the wizard here, type in a name. Now, notice next I'm given the opportunity to choose a version. This ability to version really helps you think about the automation of those post-deployment processes, such as update and patching. Continuing through the wizard, I'm giving a scoped set of choices, such as instance count, VM size, again, just like Azure, the ability to choose network configurations. Now, these scoped set of options are set by you as the administrator. This is where you embed your policies, yet provide your customer a really nice set of choices. Type in my credentials. Type them in correctly.
Always so much pressure on stage.
Yeah, you know, I'm nervous, Brad. Now my virtual machine is configured. The next step is to configure my application. And those choices you saw in the gallery, those all have a unique set of configuration parameters. Now, I could go forward and deploy this, and System Center and Windows Server would handle the rest. That takes a few minutes. So instead, what I want to do is show you the other dimension of self-service. I, as a user, want insight into my usage. I want to understand performance. And notice right here, I can see what kind of capacity I have left and what I've used in my cloud. I also see that my IT department has provided me an update. Now, with a simple click, I could choose Update right here. Or potentially, I might want to wait until it's more appropriate for my business needs. Now, you saw Trek talk about how much they appreciated the elasticity and scale in Azure. You should have the same in your data center. Going to scale, notice I have 2 instances deployed. With a couple of clicks, I could go from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. Didn't click quite far enough there. Now go ahead and deploy this. I hit save, confirm, and in a few minutes you should see that refresh and it starts the deployment. Now, because it's all powered by Windows Server and System Center, you can rest assured that this is fully automated and controlled within the parameters that you've set. See, it's starting to kick off there, Brad. What I've shown you today is truly unique in the industry. Take your skills, combine it with System Center, Windows Server, and the Windows Azure Pack, and you really have the right combo to deliver what's next in your organization. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. You know, what a concrete example of us delivering on this promise of consistency. All that rich experience and all the work that we've done as we've gone out and built this beautiful portal for all of you to interact with Azure, now brought to you to run in your data centers, to you know, whether it's giving out to your line of business, to dev test, or to service providers and giving out to their tenants. Let me make one statement here. I think that we should use the public cloud as our benchmark. The amount of innovation, the rate of innovation that's happening in the public cloud is what we should all strive to be delivering to all of our customers inside of our organizations as well. And again, like, as Claire said, we're unique in delivering all the things that we're learning in the public cloud for you to use in your data centers. Now, let me kind of dive a little bit deeper on some of these pieces. We talked about consistency, but I now want to talk about specifically some of the things that we're doing in the fabric. You know, so as you think about inside of a cloud, you've got workloads and applications, but then you've got the fabric itself, and you've got compute, you've got storage, and you've got networking. In these R2 releases, there's amazing innovation. Things like the ability to live migrate across different versions of Windows Server, taking and decreasing our utilization and our chargeback, billback down to the same minute interval that Scott talked about inside of Azure. With storage, our goal is literally to deliver highly available storage on commodity hardware and give you all the benefits of what we actually do in Azure. You know, inside of our data centers, everything runs on just commodity direct attached storage, but yet we deliver all of the benefits and value that historically you've had to purchase a SAN to do, so giving that at an incredibly low cost. And then networking. So all the things you'd expect from software-defined networking, the ability to stretch and extend your network out to your service providers into Azure, as well as provide that isolation between your customers or between your tenants. Now, there's just so much to demonstrate here that we wanted to spend the remainder of the time we had just demoing the things that we've been doing in this space. And we entitled this demonstration, Cloud Innovation Everywhere. So with that, let's get Jeff on stage and let's take a look at some of these things. Give him a hand. All right, Jeff, let's go.
Thanks, Brad. It's a pleasure to be here. How's everybody doing? Oh, come on. How's everybody doing? Windows Server and System Center 2012 R2 are about making your business more agile, your data centers more flexible, and providing you optimized cloud infrastructure. Let's start by taking a look at storage. Now, in Windows Server 2012, we introduced storage spaces to pool disks and provide flexible, fault-tolerant storage. In Server 2012, we're going to take spaces to the next level by dramatically improving performance and scale while lowering your costs per gigabyte and per IOP. Let me show you. Here you can see I've got a storage pool with 17 terabytes of storage. This pool consists of 20 hard disks and 4 SSDs. I've got the hard disks for capacity and the SSDs for IOPS performance. Now, wouldn't it be great if the storage just automatically moved the hot blocks into the SSD to give you great performance? We think so too. That's why we're delivering automated storage tiering in Windows Server 2012 R2. Let me show you. Let's go and create a brand new disk off this pooled storage. And you can see I'm going to create this tiered storage. I can choose between a simple or mirrored layout. I'm going to go for mirrored for better reliability. I can choose between a 2 or the new 3-way mirror to give you better resiliency. And now I can choose the size of the tiers. And notice that I can choose the size of the SSD and hard disk tiers independently. Now, to keep this simple, I'm just going to choose the maximum for both. And in just a couple of clicks, I've created tiered storage.
It couldn't be any more simple than that.
Couldn't be any more simple than that.
Now, so let's see it in action.
Absolutely. So now that we've created the tiered storage, let's show you what this means in terms of performance. So what we have here is a SQL load test. There's no better way to show you IOPS performance. So here I've got direct attached and the remote file storage. And the thing I want to show you here is you can see that with the Windows file server, we have performance that's on par with direct attached storage. You can see we have about 7,400 IOPS for direct attached versus remote file. Now I'm going to run that same test, this time using the remote file storage with tiering. Hold on to your seats, everybody, because we just went from 7,400 IOPS to over 124,000 IOPS.
All through software.
You're seeing a 16x performance improvement just by using storage tiering. To put this in context, if you wanted this amount of IOPS with traditional disks, you'd need over 360 15K SAS disks to deliver this. We're giving you 20 hard disks and 4 SSDs. So that's how we're going to reduce your cost per IOP. Now let me show you how we're going to reduce your cost per gigabyte. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to show you I've got two volumes. I've got volume D and I've got volume E. They're both exactly the same data on both, except D is using non-deduplicated storage. You can see it's almost full. The second one is using deduplication. You can see we've saved over 97%. These disks are filled with virtual machines for a VDI deployment, and I'm saving over 194 gigabytes of storage. Now, wouldn't it be great if I could use this dedupe storage for running virtual machines? Now, before you do that, you'd want to think, well, hold on here. I don't want to do something that's going to negatively impact performance. You'd want to know if there's going to be some performance impact. Well, what if I told you we could enable deduplication and actually provide better performance? Let me show you. We're going to go to split screen here. And what you can see here is I've just started up 10 virtual machines. 5 of those virtual machines are running on dedupe storage. 5 of those virtual machines are running on non-dedupe storage. In the split screen, you can see the connection windows, one on the dedupe, one on the non-dedupe, so you can see the virtual machines as they're booting up. Now, this little tool we created is just calling to PowerShell. It simultaneously started all 10 virtual machines. The other thing it's doing is monitoring IP addresses, so you can see that the virtual machines running on deduplicated storage are booting up faster. A lot faster. In fact, over twice as fast. How is this possible? Well, what we're doing is, with deduplication, we're afforded the opportunity, because we know where all those common blocks live, to intelligently cache the storage. So what this means is we can give you better storage performance and storage efficiency with deduplication and with running virtual machines. So now you got running virtual machines and tiered storage all built into Windows Server 2012 R2. And folks, I'm just getting warmed up. Let's get to one of your favorite topics, live migration. Now, in Windows Server 2012, quite honestly, we led the industry in terms of innovation. We're the first hypervisor to ship with shared nothing live migration. And we're back again, this time to show you some major enhancements in performance. I'm going to start off a couple of tests. This first one is running is live migrating a VM from Windows Server 2012 to Server 2012. The second one is live migrating a VM between two hosts running Windows Server 2012 R2. The virtual machine is the same in both. It has 8 gigabytes of memory. It's running SQL. It's running under massive load, so there's a whole bunch of memory churning. The first one is using 2012. The second one is using 2012 R2 and using our brand new live migration compression. What we're doing here is we're taking advantage of the fact that we have lots of cores, lots of extra compute. In fact, rarely is a Hyper-V server ever compute bound. So what we're doing is using a little bit of that compute to actually compress the virtual machines before we do the live migration, which means we can be much more efficient. And in fact, the live migration is already done. Pretty awesome now, huh? Oh, come on. Now, live migration with compression is awesome. But you know what? We're not done there. We're actually going to take it a step further. In Server 2012, we introduced SMB Direct with RDMA to dramatically improve performance for our file server. Well, guess what? We're now bringing that to live migration. So now I'm doing a third test. This one is with live migration using SMB Direct and using RDMA. Again, same virtual machine, 8 gigs of memory, SQL under massive load, and this is all churning and churning while this live migration is happening. With RDMA, even faster. The other nice thing to point out with RDMA is because it's remote DMA, there's no extra CPU utilization. All built in to Server 2012 R2. So finally, let me get to one of your other favorite technologies, Hyper-V Replica. Hyper-V Replica is our easy replication technology built right into Hyper-V. It allows us to basically protect your data by replicating your virtual machines, and it's very flexible. Now, we've listened to you very carefully, and you really have one big ask. Okay, your big ask is, Jeff, we really want to be able to manage replica at scale. I'm used to, for example, here I am at Contoso, and I'm used to managing everything with VMM. This is how I manage all my Hyper-V, but I'm used to being able to manage all my virtual machines at scale. However, I also want to be able to manage this across sites. So, for example, here I am in New Orleans, but I also have a site in LA, I have a site in New York. In fact, maybe I have sites around the world. Well, we've heard you loud and clear, and we want to solve that. So that's why we're introducing Hyper-V Recovery Manager. Hyper-V Recovery Manager is that centralized management console. It allows me to manage all of my site management, my site migration, whether it's planned or unplanned, across multiple sites. And it's a service that runs on Azure. So there's nothing to install, there's no complex installation to do. It's already there and waiting for you. One thing I want to point out and be very clear is Hyper-V Recovery Manager is orchestration. The replication still occurs site to site. So this is exactly what you want. You want to replicate between your sites from New York to New Orleans, but none of that gets transferred to Azure. Azure just manages and orchestrates the replication. So I was just showing you Contoso Corp running on-prem. Here you can see those are the 13 virtual machines that I'm protecting. And in fact, I can go in here into the protected items and I can see both my disaster recovery site, my secondary site, as well as my primary site. And in fact, here are those virtual machines that I'm running here on premises, all protected with Hyper-V Recovery Manager. Now, Hyper-V Recovery Manager is more than just orchestrating and managing replication. You want to do more than that. Because when you're doing site migration, really what you want is you want to plan. You want to make sure that when you migrate to a new site, whether it's a planned or an unplanned migration, you want to make sure that you've got a recovery plan to systematically bring up your second site in an orderly fashion. And that's exactly what we have here. Think about it as your runbook in the cloud. So right here, I've got pre-initialized environments. I can bring up my group, my first set of virtual machines. You can say I have these grouped. Here's my SQL servers coming up first, my web tier, my app tier, all coming up in an orderly fashion. And of course, it's not just limited to virtual machines. I can add things like scripts as well. I can even add manual actions in there as well. So finally, if that day arises and you need to do a migration, and hopefully it is a planned one, how do you do it? Well, you simply come on over here to failover. I'm going to go ahead and choose a planned failover. Quite simply, you confirm those are the sites I want to migrate, and click OK. And just like that, I'm doing a planned migration. DR has never, ever been this easy. So, with massive integration in storage, massive innovation in live migration and Hyper-V Recovery Manager, these are just a few of the dozens of reasons why Windows Server 2012 R2, System Center 2012 R2, and Windows Azure is the best way to cloud optimize your business. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Brad.
Wow! I gotta tell you, one of the favorite days that we have in the engineering organization at Microsoft is as we complete every milestone, we have something we call Demo Day. And it literally is where every one of the teams come up and show in literally 3-minute demos the innovation they've done in that milestone. A couple of Fridays ago, as we were doing Demo Day for the final release of these R2 releases, we sat back and it was inspiring of how much innovation the team had done as we changed these engineering processes to get more value out to you quicker. You know, this demo day is kind of like speed dating for nerds, but it is absolutely one of the absolute best days of the year. Now, let me talk a little bit more about this concept of cloud innovation, okay? Literally, the things that you saw there, and specifically I want to just hone in on what Jeff did on backup and recovery. If you were to compare that to others in the industry, other virtualization vendors would charge you expensive add-ons. You can't even say they nickel and dime you, they like Benjamin Franklin you. And it's a complex to set up. These capabilities allow you to do this in minutes, and it's simple, and it's just traditionally what Microsoft has done, where we literally come in and help bring all this together. So, data center without boundaries, cloud innovation everywhere, and really enabling you to deploy your applications dynamically, the foundation and the concepts of these R2 releases. All right, so let's bring everything together here. We started this journey today, and we started talking about the devices and the work that we're doing in Windows. We talk about all the work that we're doing in Windows Server and System Center and Intune to enable your users across their devices. We then talked about innovations in Azure and Visual Studio to enable modern applications. Through SQL and through Excel, being able to visualize and get insight from all the data that's created from those applications. And now we just covered all the innovation we're doing in the platform and how we're bringing that value of Azure to you to run in your data centers. You know, people ask me, what's Microsoft's vision of the cloud? It really is quite simple. It's the Cloud OS. And that's just what we spent the last 2 hours covering with you. In the Cloud OS, we have 4 promises. We promise that we will empower people-centric IT. We covered that. We promise that we will enable modern applications to be built. We covered that. We promise that we would help you unlock all the insights in the data. We covered that. And finally, we promise that we will help you transform your data centers in this move to the cloud. And you know, this is far more than a vision. We are executing on this. Look at what we just announced this morning in terms of new releases, new updates coming to all the core products and how they line up with each of those promises of the Cloud OS. You know, one of the most interesting conversations that I had in the last couple of months is I was talking with a number of leaders from some of the VMware user groups. And they made a statement to me that I thought was very poignant. I want to relate to you. They said many of us were made heroes in our organizations because we took out incredible CapEx spend as we virtualized everything. They said, looking at what you're delivering now, we can see that we can become heroes again. We can take down the spend of the expensive licenses that we're buying from others in the market, use what you have just in Windows Server, in System Center, in SQL, and take down the spend and be heroes again. Let's take one final look at Aston Martin. We started the day with Aston Martin. Let's take one final look at what they're doing, because I think that they've done a wonderful job at embracing the entire Cloud OS vision from Microsoft. Let's take a look.
The Aston Martin IT department that I came into was one that offered support. And what I needed to do was change that to an IT department that actually offered something more than that. It offered advice, it offered strategy, it offered innovation.
What we wanted was a single vendor who could provide all of the tools that we needed across our complete infrastructure.
At that time, cloud started to become very prevalent. Aston Martin needed to start developing strategic partnerships. Microsoft were a very key partner for that. What we can now offer is that service to the organisation to say, what is it that you want to do? And we'll help you innovate. What the Microsoft Cloud OS vision allows me to do is offer them slicker, quicker, faster ways of doing what they want to do and doing it very, very well.
Successfully deploying Office 365 gave us the confidence to explore some of the other new Microsoft products which are cloud-based.
We moved our website to Azure. Fantastic support, fantastic solution, and we're looking at moving more out to the Azure cloud. What I want to do with Azure, what I want to do with Office 365, what I want to do with Intune is to enable the decision makers to make their decisions and make them quickly and make them with the right information in their pockets. We have more of a hybrid solution, so we do have a lot out in the cloud now, but we do have to look after what is actually within our own premise. Management of cross-platform dependencies is now starting to grow as well.
So the Cloud OS is going to allow us to develop not only our internal cloud environment, but also to be able to push into a hybrid for business continuity, disaster recovery, and so on. The hybrid strategy that we're implementing now is going to give us the best solution for the business. Windows Server allows us to focus less on the infrastructure and more on the strategic needs of the company.
What I want is for those individuals who are at that board level to have the ability to make their decisions, to surface the information they want. We have delivered that within Aston Martin. We'll continue to do that by using the Microsoft offering. What really drives me as the head of IT for Aston Martin is what comes out of the door every single day. We produce absolutely stunning and beautiful cars that are revered across the globe. If we can improve that and increase the decision making, why would I not be happy doing what I'm doing?
Really, honestly, nothing I can add to what they said there. You know, so let's just end here. First of all, I encourage you to, really sit back and take a look and think and reflect on what we've introduced today. Take a look at the opportunities here at the event. I would encourage you to take a look at the session guide. We've actually added additional classes this morning. And please attend the foundation classes that are immediately after this right here, where they'll go deeper and deeper and deeper into these 4 promises and give you more details on that. So with that, let me say thank you. Thank you for spending the time here with us at TechEd. Thank you for allowing us to partner with you on your businesses. Let's together go out and change the world. Let's advance your businesses. Let's advance your careers. And literally, let's change the world, everybody. Thank you. Have a great conference.